As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner, YouGov, offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more. Do we want to start with the punching bag?
Yes.
Maybe.
I assume this is Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
Gotta be.
I mean, let's stick to the business commentary, okay? I don't want any social or like let's not go down sort of these rabbit holes. Let's stick to the business.
We'll never get out at this rate. Yeah.
It's a business podcast. Let's stick to the business. And I think this was a business story. T-Mobile branding removed from Overwatch and Call of Duty League websites. And the subheadline here is Activision Blizzard lawsuit appears to have prompted a severing of ties. Now, what's interesting is that it was removed quietly. There's been no announcement. This came out 2 days ago. I haven't seen any official announcement since then either. So, like, all of this has been sort of hush-hush. T-Mobile, obviously a huge sponsor of both leagues. What do you guys make of the business implications, at least for these two leagues, with a huge sort of sponsor like T-Mobile pulling out?
You
go, Lindsay.
Will it survive? Forget about the social or politics or any of that. Mm-hmm. If we see more sponsors pulling out, is there a path for these leagues going forward? Is this just a temporary blip, you think? Curious where you guys are on this.
I think that there's still a chance for Activision Blizzard to do some of the things that they've needed to do with these leagues for forever, and perhaps losing a huge sponsor. And this is actually I remember tuning in to some of the Overwatch League games 2 years ago, and this is truly the only sponsor I remember, which means that it was extremely prominent. It's also because T-Mobile's branding is great and the magenta pink sticks out and all of that. But true. I saw T-Mobile easily recognizable, and losing that is just colossal. Obviously, that's not great for the business. If Activision Blizzard decides to use this as a learning experience and pivot away from what they're doing, then I still think that there's time to recover, but that time is in short supply.
I mean, Lindsay, you brought up what I think is a really good point, which is this the push that they needed, you think, to maybe revisit the structure of these leagues, the economic split, the strategy? Like, did they need something like this, like a huge jolt, losing big sponsors like this to make big changes? Jeff, I don't know.
So, Paul, I think that's a good point, and I think, this may sound crazy, but part of me thinks that what's going on could end up being a little bit of a blessing in disguise for the owners of these leagues, in the sense that it's sort of something that shocks the system. And it can be a catalyst, to your point, for them to create, like, the last thing Activision Blizzard needs right now is more unrest, teams changing hands at really low valuations, owners, these billionaire owners just basically coming out and saying, well, I'm just writing off that investment, basically coming out entirely negative. Economically, that wouldn't hurt Activision Blizzard much, but they just don't need any more bad PR. So this could be a catalyst for some of those changes to happen in terms of the franchise economics, league splits, because historically we've always talked about, whenever we talk about the franchise leagues and even just esports overall, the ecosystem, the publishers have all the power. It's really hard to make money as a team because the publishers own the sport. They're going to take so much revenue. Well, now you have a publisher that's potentially significantly weakened and is in a worse negotiating position or leverage position than they probably have been in the last 5 years. So it could be a catalyst for changes. Changes to be honest, we may not even hear about these changes. They could just happen in in boardrooms somewhere in California, and we'd never really hear about the economic splits because I think a lot of the economic splits were never disclosed in the first place to a lot of investors. So yeah, I think it's an interesting time.
Can I ask a hypothetical question, guys? And let me just show you another article. It's more bad news, right? Where the president of Blizzard stepped down. Like, Blizzard's in real big trouble. Again, there's not much business to discuss there, but the house is burning a little bit there. Obviously they have solid businesses. King, has been doing well still. But is this the time to be buying an Activision Blizzard franchise potentially? Right? Like, the house is on fire. Is there some level of desperation there, you think? And is this maximum negotiating leverage for any new owners potentially wanting to come in? Because Call of Duty's league's supposed to be expanding, right?
That's sort of the $1 million question, or tens of $1 million question. And like any asset, price is what you pay, value is what you get. So it all depends on what price you're trading at. If you're buying an Overwatch League team for $5 million, yeah, maybe it's a good buy low candidate. If you're paying 30, I don't think that's going to happen. Same thing with Call of Duty. I don't know where, maybe Activision feels like they need a PR win, so they're giving these slots out, at a significantly discounted rate or something like that, which kind of gets back to what I was just saying.
Jimmy, I don't know if you had thoughts on this.
It's hard for me to reconcile, and I want to keep it business oriented. I mean, I do see Activision closed out the day today at 81.52. Losing one major sponsor, yeah, that's a big deal. I like to point to Tiger Woods, who was able to lose Gatorade, AT&T, Gillette, and these are, especially with a company, these are long lifespans and things that you can bounce back from. My fear is, and just to kind of play devil's advocate here, or at least look at it differently, is, we're trying to reconcile the business proposition of one of the largest companies in our industry against an issue of culture, I think, and mistreatment, which are tied together, but from a philosophy standpoint, I think in terms of how they're operating themselves and whether or not they choose to institute change, I just don't see a direct parallel there. If change does happen, I think maybe it's a result of other public-facing things that they need to do to get back, on the right track. But again, we're seeing a lot of negative news from their culture on how things were done there, which we're not necessarily touching here, but obviously need a change. And whether or not that will affect their business because of some change with sponsors like T-Mobile, I just don't know. It's hard to see. I think if they lose 2 or 3 more, that's a harder thing to come to grips with. If it's just 1 or 2, they could blame it on that bad press and that their core philosophy is sound, that their business is sound, that their economics are still steadfast, and they'll weather the storm, and they'll come out with some great PR and some diversity hires, etc., and get back on track. So again, it's easy for me to see them not change the economics of it and weather the PR storm and win the court of a public opinion through those changes.